Hi team, welcome to another Tuesday night Team CP Media Live podcast. We're here with Jess in the studio with me tonight. We're going to be talking road cycling, our road cycling special. We've got Michael Vink waiting backstage. We've got Juliann Simeonidis, who has just finished the 5 Passes tour, and Cushla Holdaway, our resident dietitian, is going to catch up with us as well and talk about some stuff in your back pocket so you can keep riding fast and enjoy your day out. So tonight's show is proudly brought to you by True Fleece Merino and Team CP, your endurance coaching specialists. So True Fleece, one of our fantastic partners, and they've got everything that you need to keep you warm, basically. So we've got a fantastic little prize pack from them tonight to give away as a result of you giving us some feedback, etc., as the night goes on. Jess, how are you getting on this evening?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I'm going well. Excited to be here.
Nice work. And how's sunny Wanaka? What's been happening down your neck of the woods recently?
Yeah, it's beautiful day. Just getting out there. I've actually just bought a new time trial bike myself on the road, so I'm super excited tonight.
Nice, good. So hopefully we might have a tip or two to help you go fast on that time trial bike, or at least look fast, because that's part of the battle, isn't it?
I'd love to look fast. That'd be great.
Yeah, fantastic. So you're going to be keeping a bit of an eye on the comments as we go during the show, and sussing out to maybe throwing a few of those up for that True Fleece prize pack.
Sure will.
Yep.
And nice what's the latest? How's it going with you?
Oh, not too bad. Coast to Coast is my sort of key goal for the summer, and I ended up playing tennis in the weekend. So probably not exactly specific to that. My first competitive game of tennis since 1995. So that's a little while ago. A little bit rusty for the start, but managed to get into the swing of it towards the end. So that was good fun. But like Coast to Coast running, it's quite good to move differently laterally, and I did feel it the next day or two afterwards. So I don't think it was all lost. So that was pretty cool. And just riding my bike, trying to get out and about, mix things up, trying to just do a little bit of everything most days. So things are going not too bad at the moment.
Cool.
Yeah, so that should be good. And then also, got a paddle down the Waimak lined up for Thursday. So that should be pretty cool, and the weather's looking good as well. So good to again get out and have a bit of an adventure there.
Fantastic.
Yep. The other thing actually going on is our Wednesday group rides have been fizzing lately. We're waiting to see Jules back there soon. We've had sort of mid-30s or so people coming along, so really good numbers. Great to see lots of people on their road bikes having fun and challenging themselves, which is pretty cool. So feel free to come along and get amongst that in the next little while. Other things that are going on, our Christmas party is coming up Wednesday, 15th of December, and it also incorporates the World Bingo Championships. Have you ever been a world champion in anything, Jess?
No, but at bingo I potentially could be, so I've got my fingers and toes crossed for this one.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully you're doing some training, preparing well, and it's all about reaction time and making sure you've got a good loud bingo as it gets called. So I look forward to seeing you there in a couple of weeks' time.
I'm ready.
Nice work. And also last week we talked to the Jonathan Kennett, and we talked all things cycle touring effectively and mountain biking, etc. And we had an Evo Cycles prize pack that we're going to give to Adam Parks for his feedback around the show. So well done, Adam. There's a bit of an Evo Cycles gift voucher coming your way, which is pretty cool. Nice work. So rolling through tonight, give you a bit of an intro. We've got Michael Vink. So Michael won the Tour of Southland. He's so he's going to join us to share what it takes to actually win New Zealand's toughest and most prestigious cycling event. So he's won. This is his third victory. He's got second last year and won the 2 years prior to that. So we're going to discuss how he trains, what he does for recovery during the tour, and some of the key moments that took place in this year's race. So we're going to kick off with that. Juliann, as I mentioned at the top of the show, has just completed the iconic 5 Passes tour, which she took home the green jersey over the last 4 days. Only finished yesterday, so we're hot off the press with Jules, and pretty keen to discuss those sprints along with the 617 Ks of riding plus almost 6,000 vertical meters that she did along the way, and a variety of weather conditions that she...
I was going to say, I heard there's a bit of rain.
That's right. Wouldn't be the West Coast without it, and a good 5 Passes tour. And we're going to wrap up the show with Cushla around nutrition for cycling as well.
Brilliant. Exciting.
Nice.
Cool.
Should we Jess, shall we get Michael on the show?
I think so. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah,
Good.
great. Thanks, Michael. How are you getting on? How's the body?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, seems like we're going the tour Southland finished, but yeah, still good to go over things and share what I've sort of learned and done. So yeah.
Nice. Good stuff. So we're going to get into the sort of nitty gritty of the tour of Southland down the track, but pretty keen to get a bit more of a feel about Michael Vink and where you've come from and what you do and how you spend your time, etc. So give us a bit of background. Tell us about how you got into riding your bike fast and what were your key influences in the early years?
So I started definitely from racing mountain bikes. So I was one of those kids that was always out on a bike. I was never on sort of PlayStations or playing video games. I was always out till dark, sort of riding my bike around the local park and making jumps with my friends and things. And that was kind of it for me. And then through school, I was compulsory to choose a winter sport, and I thought I like riding mountain bikes and that sort of thing. So we'll give road cycling a go. That can't be too bad. And it was just from there. So I started purely through schools racing.
Yeah, nice. So how old were you then? Is that sort of 14, 15 sort of range? Is that sort of where you were?
Yeah, I'd say probably 14. No, 15, 16, I'd say. Yeah,
Yep.
15, 16.
Yeah. And your first tour of
So,
Southland was when you were 17, is that right?
yeah, I believe it might have been 2009, I think it was.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so a wee while ago now. Still remember it, but
Yeah.
it seems like a long time ago.
yeah, that's right. So what sort of do you get into it and like, actually I love this and I'm right into it and I'm training heaps? So how did that evolve for you?
No, I hated it at first. I couldn't stand the competitive nature of it because I always used to ride bikes on my terms. It was always about going out and having fun, and then all of a sudden I was racing and doing all this competitive stuff, and I didn't like it. But of course, it was compulsory at school to a winter sport, so I just sort of sucked it up and got through it. And it was probably a few months after one of the seasons finished, and it was just summertime here in Christchurch, and I had nothing to do, and I thought, oh, there are road bikes looking pretty dusty. I'll pick that up and see if I can actually what I can do for a training ride. And then I started doing a bit of training, and then from there I sort of thought, I've done 40 Ks, now tomorrow I'm going to try and do 50 Ks, and then I'm going to try and do this, try and do a bit more, and yeah, just sort of grew from there.
Excellent. Accidentally started to do a bit of training. 40,
yeah,
50 Ks young.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually getting a fair bit under your belt, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just a case of finding I think a local, there's a block around Horsville, I think it was. So I was maybe 10 Ks out there. I'd go out and do a couple of blocks, and then the next day I'd try and do 3 blocks and then 4 blocks, and then I'd go and try to go somewhere else. And I quite liked the riding on my terms more than the racing side of it. And that was always the thing for me. It was just I like riding my bike rather than the competitive nature. And I've always said I'm not someone that picked up a bike, so I wanted to win the Tour de France. I started riding because I just love the feeling of it.
Yeah, nice. So did you have anybody that sort of helped and supported you into that, or was it really actually I just rode my bike and kind of got into the swing of it with schools racing, etc.? Is that what happened, or did you must have had some people that supported you earlier on to sort of take that next step?
Definitely my parents have always been supportive. They've always helped with bikes and equipment and things, and anything that I've needed in that respect. They've been really good with. My dad did a little bit of riding when he was younger. When we were kids, he was on the coast to coast a few times, and was just sort of a bit more of a weekend warrior type guy. But he's Dutch, you see, so he grew up through a sort of a culture of people riding bikes, and over there it's massive. It's like rugby here, so he knew a lot about riding and all the names, the Eddie Merckx's and that sort of thing. And yeah, he loved to see me on the bike, although there's certainly never any pressure.
Yeah, nice, awesome. So when did you actually turn pro as a cyclist? And so tell us a little bit about that journey. So and what teams have you ridden for in the past? And give us a bit more information around that.
Yeah, so the first time I signed a UCI contract would be with the Subway Avanti team. I think it was 2009.
Right.
So they were sort of New Zealand's first actual UCI registered continental team, and they were really rail run set up by the Godfreys. Hayden Godfrey was the manager, and then Jeannie and Barry Godfrey did a lot of the work behind the scenes. And that was a team that really focused on the professionalism of the sport. It wasn't just about winning races; it was about the way you carry yourself and the way you represent your sponsors and the professionalism of everything. And that's certainly something that I've taken into my later years. It's not just about winning races and what you do on the bike. It's also about off the bike. And that's where Subway Avanti was really good. And that's, I think, the great value of a development team is teaching riders not only to race, but also what to do when you get off the bike.
Yeah, nice. So great fundamentals being sort of learnt there. And it is, yeah, great feedback for them, sort of hearing from someone like yourself down the track, 10, 12 years down the track, that's sort of how they sort of set you up. So other teams that you've ridden for in the past?
Yeah, so I've done a few seasons in Belgium. I've done a few seasons in France. I've done a season in America. I've done a couple of seasons in Australia. So I've ridden for the likes of Trick Livestrong. That's the team run by Axel Merckx, who's the son of Eddie Merckx. So you don't get much bigger names than that. And then I've ridden for a few different Belgian amateur teams and a couple of years for the Southland team in France. And I've ridden for the Budget Forklift team in Australia for a couple of years. And yeah, I've certainly been through a few different setups through my time, and I've certainly taken a bit out of each one. So they've all been valuable.
Nice. So what's happened with you with COVID and stuff? Like you're obviously sitting in Christchurch at the moment. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
How does a pro cyclist make a living sitting in Christchurch? Obviously, you've got Tour of Southland, which is a big event, but obviously you need to do events. You need to be out there doing stuff.
Yeah, obviously it's been pretty tough. I mean, things have been cancelled, and a lot of what I've been doing has been relying on prize money and that sort of thing. And obviously that's been pretty quiet. But yeah, you certainly find other ways to make it work. It's the same for everyone. Things are starting to get better, so Europe is getting back to normal pretty quickly. We're obviously a bit behind here in New Zealand, but if we can get over to Europe, then things will be fine. It's just looking like it'll be okay. And then obviously waiting for the Chinese side or the Asian side of racing to open up again, because that's also where a lot of money can be made. So yeah.
Yeah. So is that the next step to get back to Europe or to Asia, or is that sort of?
Yeah, definitely Europe is my thing. I haven't been to Europe for a number of years, and Europe's obviously the place to go if you want to become a professional cyclist, and that's where the biggest teams are and the best races. So I haven't been over there in sort of probably 5 years now, and I've certainly had the best form of my career in those last 5 years. So it'll be really good to see what I can do over Europe with the legs that I've got at the moment.
Yeah, good. So really just to go, okay, well, I'm in good shape. I've learnt lots. I'm in much better. Let's go and see what I can actually do there. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, getting older as well. Just turned 30 yesterday, so it's now or never type thing for me. So it's, I guess, a bit of a last chance and see what I can do. Also, even if it doesn't go anywhere, it's just nice to know that I've given it my best shot and I can actually do myself justice, because I've never really had a year over in Europe that I've actually felt like I've got the most out of myself. So
brilliant. And being a bit older means you can just manage yourself, like you can look after yourself better and all those sorts of things. And having that experience of being a professional, like it'd be really interesting and exciting to see what you can actually achieve.
Yeah, I think the key thing is experience. And again, it's not just what you do on the bike, it's about off the bike as well, and having that balance in your life, and knowing when to sort of step back and take a rest day, and knowing when you actually have to push and be disciplined. And I think balance is absolutely the key. But no one can tell you about balance. It's something that kind of really has to come from yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself and really listen to your own feelings. And that's something that certainly comes with experience.
Yeah, that's good. So tell us about your training. What does that look like? What does a Michael Vink sort of standard week look like? Like how much are you riding your bike? What does that look like?
I'm pretty relaxed, to be honest, with training. It's a few people have sort of pointed it out. I generally sort of see what bunch rides are happening throughout the week and try and tag along to as many of those as possible. But I suppose a typical week for me would be I generally have Mondays off. And then Tuesday I'll do the local bunch ride here called the Tuesday Worlds, which is about 100k or so, but quite a few hills, and we have a bit of a race. So that's probably like intensity session with some short, sharp hills. And then Wednesday, Thursday, probably longer rides. Maybe Wednesday do like 120k in the hills or something. Maybe Thursday like 150.
Yep. How long are these taking you around about? How long are they taking you around about?
Oh, it depends really. I'd probably normally average for hilly rides 30k's an hour.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For a day with lots of climbing. And then I'd say Thursday I'd probably do a longer ride, like 150 or so k's.
Yep.
And then Friday would be an easier day, maybe just a couple of hours or so, maybe a couple of short efforts. And then Saturday would have racing, plus some kilometers as well. So generally would have 150, 200 k's with an 80k race in there, which is a really good session. And then Sunday's a bit sort of just, but like Thursday, sort of a long slow ride. So that's probably a typical week, but that's very, very general, and that does change a lot. So
yeah, that's right. At the end of the day, you're still riding your bike lots, aren't you?
Yeah, and just waking up every day and sort of assessing sort of how I feel and what I think I need to do, and making a decision on what I do for training, because I've coached myself for a long time now, many years. I was coached by Terry Giard originally in the start, and I've probably been doing my own thing for probably 8 years now.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Do
Yeah,
you get
7, 8
some
years. So
feedback
yeah,
from others? Do you get a bit of feedback,
it's
or do you
always
have with others, etc., just to go, just in terms of reflect on how you're going and what you're doing, or actually?
I think I think I'm at the stage now where people tend to not give me advice, which is kind of funny, because advice is always good. It's always good to hear what people say. But you always talk to people, and people are always, talking to me, and we have bunch rides and things where you might spend 4 hours riding with someone, and you can't help
Yeah.
but talk about training and what people are doing, and there's always a bit of gossip and a bit of chatter going around, and it's interesting to hear what
Yeah.
sessions people are doing.
Yep.
Yeah, there's certainly some interesting ideas, and training has certainly changed a lot and evolved, but I tend to stick to the basics, really, just bit of volume, bit of intensity, bit of rest, and then race. So yeah.
And obviously that keeps you fresh, doesn't it? And then it means that you can manage the weather and all those sorts of things as well and keep it fun.
Yeah.
Do you do much on the indoor trainer at all? Like that's really kind of taken off in the last few years, especially.
Yeah, I've kind of just discovered that, really, to be honest. I'm still quite new to it, but certainly I don't like the indoor trainer. I'm not one of those people. I'd rather ride in the rain, but if you do an indoor training session, particularly like a race on Zwift or whatever, then you actually go back and look at the numbers you're doing. It's actually really, really good quality riding. So at the end of the day, you can't get away from that. If it's good quality riding, and you can't get those sort of numbers unless you're racing, even if it is on the trainer. So if you do need some race Ks, there's a really good way to do that. So it's a bit of a love-hate thing, I guess, for me.
Yeah, but I guess it keeps it different, doesn't it? It keeps it, you mix it up as a result of that. So that's a good thing. It's the same old ride again.
I think that's the thing, and it keeps sort of the body guessing. It's different muscle groups and things, and the way you ride on the train is a bit different. And I suppose I'm still quite new to it, so I'm not fully used to it yet. And I sort of feel like it gets the better of me a lot of times. But the more I do it, the more I get used to it, the more the body kind of gets that feeling. The easier it is. So maybe in 6-12 months I'll start enjoying it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, good stuff. How do you measure your progress? How do you know that you're sort of going quite well? Do you do any testing? Do you do any FTP testing, or do you have sort of specific power numbers you look to aim for over certain climbs or whatever? What do you do there?
I'm pretty good at just sort of. I've been doing it long enough now that I can just go for a ride and I can see the sort of power numbers I'm doing and the times up climbs versus how I feel, and that's ultimately the best sort of gauge of how you're feeling. I don't tend to do any testing as such, any specific testing, but to me, every ride's a test. Every ride, you've got to ask yourself, how am I feeling? What will I be like to be doing different? What should I be doing differently? Is there something I should be doing differently? And every ride, just sort of get a bit of an idea of how you're going. It's important to always sort of objectively think about how you're feeling on each ride, because it all adds up for sure.
Yeah, nice. Do you have a sort of key go-to workout that you do on a weekly basis, being a strength-based session on the hills, or like actually my race is my key go-to session in the week? Like, is there something there that you make sure that you do on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I think definitely a couple of intensity sessions a week is really key, because that's when you really can get a feel for how you're going. You can do as many of those sort of long rides as you want, but at the end of the day, racing is high intensity, and racing is what you're training for. So unless you're doing some high intensity stuff, you don't know how you're going to perform in the races. So that's where I like the Tuesday morning bunch ride we do. We always do a bit of a race around the bays, and it's always good to see sort of how I'm feeling there. And it's a loop I've done, regularly since I was, 16 years old. So I know that road pretty well. I know how I should be feeling on each climb and that sort of thing. And definitely the Saturday racing too, because at the end of the day, there's nobody testing racing. So I always try and jump to club races, even if they're short, even if they're 40Ks, even if they don't suit me, if they're totally flat. And it's always good to actually go out and push yourself in a race situation. So any chance I get to race, I'll always take. So.
Is there anybody that's going to sort of ruffle your feathers on some of those sort of Tuesday morning? They're always giving it heaps, or do you have it your own way these days? Sort of how does that go?
No, definitely.
To make it competitive enough.
It depends how you ride. So I'd normally, you might have like, I don't know, 7 or 8 kind of key climbs, anywhere from sort of 30 seconds to 5 minutes. And I'd normally sort of go hard up one and then wait for everyone and then race someone else up the next one. And someone else would come forward, and then, or you can do a big long turn on the flats and sort of wear the legs down a bit. And then you have to race someone up the climbs. And it's a perfect sort of test, really. And then also you got the last push up Evans Pass, which is always good if you really want to try and empty the tank. At the end of the ride. So that's what's really good. You can kind of make that ride as hard as you want to. So that's what I think is really good about it.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. In terms of, do you have one key session that you're like, yep, I'm ready for Tour of Southland? Like something that you did as a precursor to the event at all, or is it actually just collective training that you did over the course of time to say that, yep, I'm ready?
Yeah, I'd normally like to do like a longer sort of 4 to 5 hour ride with quite a bit of hills, like say
Yep.
2,000 plus meters of climbing, and do some efforts over those hills, because what's really important is how you feel after those 3 or 4 hours. So if
Yep.
I can do a good solid 3 or 4 hours at, you know, 250 to 300 watts, and then do an effort up a climber, I can hold so 450 for 10 plus minutes. Then I'm definitely know I'm feeling pretty good. So it's always easy to do good numbers when you're feeling fresh at the start of the ride after 20 minutes, but doing it after 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours of decent riding, that's the real test for me. So definitely normally like a Sunday I'd go out and do a long ride in the hills out to sort of Port Levy or something like that here in Canterbury,
Right.
and then
Yep.
yeah, sort of ride hard up the climbs at the end. So that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, nice. And you definitely know whether you're going well or not after a ride like that. That's for sure. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, it's such steep hills as well, which is good because you can't hide them and you can't really get over the gear that easily. So if you can make those climbs, feel okay, then you're going pretty well.
Yeah, nice. You won Tour of Southland in 2018, 19, second last year. The goal this year was obviously win on GC. How confident were you coming into the race prior to kickoff?
I definitely knew I had good legs, that's for sure. I knew I had the legs, if not better than the previous years that I'd won the race. So I knew if I didn't win, it wouldn't be because I wasn't strong enough. It would be because of, someone else having an absolute blunder or getting a bit of luck or me having some bad luck or something like that. But it's certainly not a race where you can take anything for granted. So you got to be prepared for all scenarios, and having the right legs is just sort of one part of the equation. You've also got to tick all the boxes with equipment. You got to have the right team. You got to have the right sort of people around and all that sort of thing as well. So it's definitely a multifaceted approach you've got to take to that race.
Yeah. How does the team put together? Like, how are you involved in that? Because obviously that's a key part of whether I'm going to win this or actually it's going to be really tough for me this year. How does that go?
Yeah, so generally the team managers who are Brendan Ackroyd and Steve Keys to us this year, they basically call me up and say, Tour of Southland's coming up, of course, who would you like to have in
Yep.
your team? And I sort of say, well, who do you guys think? So it's always good to get other people's feedback as well. Who's going good from down in the Cargill, who's going good in the area. They put some names out there, I put some names out there, and we just sort of talk about it and sort of make a decision based on our goals, which is pretty much always the GC thing. So obviously you need guys that go on the climbs, you need guys that are strong on the flats, you need guys with a bit of experience. It's always good to have some young guys there as well, to sort of, because it's not all about winning. It's always nice to see some other riders progress and grow throughout the tour as well. So it's always good to have a couple of young guys. And
Yep.
just try and have a good balance in the team, but also sort of all bases covered for the week.
Nice. So obviously with the young guys in there, that team culture must be important to you as well, just to make sure that you actually enjoy the tour and make sure everyone's getting something out of it rather than just sort of your goals.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think the way to get the most out of someone is to make them want to do their job. In this case, how
Yeah.
do you make them want to do what they're doing? That's when you get 105% out of someone as opposed to 100%. And that's what you need. So it's about having a good team atmosphere, a good team environment, and sharing jokes and things. And I also try to give everyone a chance to get something out of the tour. So you might have someone that turns up that really wants to win a stage, and I say, all right, if you want to win a stage, this is your chance. This is the stage you should do it, and we'll support you 100% if that's what you want to do. Or you might be someone who wants to go for a jersey, a sprint race jersey, or whatever. And I'm quite happy to lead someone out for a sprint preem or whatever, or help them there, because I know that if I do that for them, then when I ask for something back, they'll give me 105%, which is what I want.
And that means that they're not just hanging on for the tour. They're not just sitting in and hoping I don't get dropped. They're actually coming forward to have a crack at things as well, isn't it?
That's the thing. Like, you think you have to give everyone a job. That's really important, because at the end of the day, at the end of the stage, most people are going to get dropped anyway. Sort of, there's only going to be 5% of the field left. So if someone can do a job, whether it's leading into a gravel section or getting some bottles or giving up a spare wheel or something, and then if they get dropped, at least they sort of finish the stage saying, yeah, we got dropped, but I did my job, as opposed to just saying I hung on as long as I could and just got dropped at the end. So definitely it's good for guys. It sort of gives them a feeling of purpose and achievement, and I think it keeps the motivation up, which is really important. So I think on the Tour of Southland, it tends to be the head that goes, I think, for a lot of people more so than the legs. So if you can keep the head screwed on right and keep people motivated and in the game, then that's the biggest thing.
And what happens to them when they get dropped? Obviously there must be a time limit they have to be in by, so you've still got to keep riding.
Yeah, I mean, I say get dropped, but generally it's a selection on the front of maybe 5 or 10 guys. So that's not as if, some days you do have sort of times where there is sort of people are getting dropped in 1s and 2s for 150k, and those are the real tough days. But generally the racing progressively gets harder, and then in the end, the last sort of hour or so, that a few guys will ride away. But yeah, that's probably how it goes. But there is a time limit on all the stages, but as long as you're not sort of, taking the mickey and riding super slow just to recover, then generally you're fine. So generally, people sort of get tailed off the back in groups, and they ride together to the finish, and you're okay.
Yeah, nice. How did the tour unfold for you this year? How did you ride the early stage of the tour with you and the team?
Yeah, certainly the first 2 stages. Stage 1. So we had the prologue around Queen's Park that was wet, and then stage 1, which was the circuit race, that was also very wet. The circuit race was a new stage. When you've done the tour as many times as me, you sort of start to get used to things, and you start to see sort of patterns and trends. And when they put in new stages, it kind of makes you think quite a bit. But it was certainly a stage that we just sort of had to get through without any dramas or any troubles, because if you've got a wet circuit race like that around Queen's Park with lots of manhole covers and sort of painted lines and things, it gets quite slippery. And at that stage of the tour, everyone thinks they're in with the chance. Everyone thinks it's their year, so everyone's sort of going hard for leather to try and stay at the front. And you always have crashes in those situations, which we did have a couple of crashes, but luckily we avoided them. And I just sort of said to everyone, it's not the day to win the tour. We just want to make sure we don't lose it. So that was the big thing. And then obviously, the gravel stage as well. Again, after
you're breaking up a little bit there, Michael.
You got me now?
Sorry, Michael, you're just breaking up a little bit there. If Jess is there, maybe give me a bit of a look and see that was not just me. So yeah, just give us a little bit of an overview on that. You're just breaking up a little bit there.
Yep. So I suppose the first thing, the key thing. How are we looking? You got me?
Yeah, I think, are we good now? Yep, I think that's right there. Sorry, we just had a bit of a glitch there. Maybe you went through a tunnel or something. I think we're back on.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so the first couple of days was just about staying out of trouble, to be honest. And obviously they were quite wet stages, so we just wanted to make sure we didn't have any issues. And I said to everyone, it wasn't a day to win the tour. We just wanted to make sure we didn't lose it. So staying at the front and avoiding crashes and staying out of trouble was the key thing so early on in the race.
Hello? Sorry, I think we've lost you there, Michael. Jess, do you want to just come back in there if you can hear us?
Hello, yes.
Is that just my internet or is that Michael's internet? How are we shooting for there?
I think it might be yours. So, Richard, it seems to be receiving well.
Oh, perfectly fine. Okay, right, great. Okay, well, that's my fault. Sorry about that. That's cool. Okay, well, if you want to jump in and ask the next kind of question or so, I missed that a little bit, and I'll come back in when things clear up a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. I was kind of interested to know how you go communicating when you're on the tour. So how do you communicate between your teammates?
Yeah, so often in the bigger races, we'd have race radios, which is great because all you do is push a button, you've got a direct line to everyone in the team as well as the director in the team car. And so you can pretty instantly really sort of get messages across and see how people are feeling and see what the plan is, and everyone can be on the same page quite easily. But in the smaller races like Tour of Southland, we don't have that luxury. So that just really highlights the importance of keeping everyone together in the bunch. It highlights the importance of keeping everyone together in the bunch, because if someone's within earshot of you, you can give them a message quite easily. Often you see teams sort of everyone pretty close, but not exactly on the wheel. And when it's like that, you can't relay messages as easy and as quickly. So definitely having everyone right there is the big thing, but also you can go back to the team car as well. So you've got your director behind in the car following, and they can always pass on messages. So it's good to regularly send people back and they get the information from the commissaires for time gaps and things like that. So
yeah, great. Is there, was there a stage in this year's tour that you kind of were most proud of? You're like, yeah, I nailed that.
I think the time trial for me was probably the big thing, because that was the stage where I sort of set myself a bit of a goal quite a lofty goal as well. I sort of said to the guys the night before, I said tomorrow I'm going to ride a 15-minute 30 around that course, which was the course record by a decent margin. And I don't think anyone really doubted me, but I think people were sort of, they were sort of impressed that I was sort of even thinking about that. So that's what motivates me. So I always like to go for the goals that people think are lofty. It's not so much unachievable, but I think if everyone thinks you can do what you want to do, then it's not special. But if people sort of have a bit of doubt or they question whether you can do it, that's what really motivates me. So that was my big thing with that race, and particularly because up to that point I hadn't really had to do too much. So it was really nice to get to do a stage that I was really proud of.
Yeah, great.
So you said that was a stage record by quite a margin. Who had the previous record and what was it? Do you know?
Hamish Bond, I think, had it in a 15:51.
Right. So
yeah, but
20 seconds off him.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a wet day, to be fair, as well, and I think it was a bit windier. So, I mean, you never know what he could have done. I mean, I'm sure it would have been similar sort of time, 15:30 odd. But yeah, definitely, because we've had that time on the tour for so many years now. It's there've been plenty of times posted, and I think being at the end of the race on the last stage, it really shows a lot about who's done the work and who's the freshest and who's the most prepared, because anyone can ride fast around there on day one, but come day 6, day 7, it's a different story. So again, it's about having a really good team that can protect you throughout the week, so you're in good stead for that time trial.
So it doesn't just mean that you're super fast and you're fired up and you've got good gear and all that sort of stuff. It's actually about what's gone before and how you've managed that. So a key part of that management strategy is actually your recovery, isn't it? So it's the efforts you put in, but it's also recovery. So talk us through your recovery protocol. How do you do that? How does that look for you? Is it the same every time? Does it vary a little bit? What do you do?
Yeah, so the key thing for recovery, I think, to remember is that it generally depends how fit you turn up to the race. So most of the your recovery capacity is sort of governed by what you've done leading up to the event. So that's why it's really important to do the long rides, the back-to-back rides. So because if you haven't done the work, you're just not going to recover no matter what you do. So that's always the main thing to remember. I think people sort of try and shortcut that sometimes with certain things, devices and certain drinks and things and whatnot. But the key thing is to turn up super fit. And from there, it's just a case of good quality food, good sleep, and just the basics, really. There's unfortunately no magic bullets with recovery. It's just about looking after your body and just being sensible.
So is it like I'm going to go for a warm down spin for 10 minutes and then I'm going to get some food into me? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I generally like to have some simple sugar straight away, handful of Woolies or a Coke or something like that, and then just do at least sort of 5-10 minutes just easy spinning on the bike afterwards.
Yep.
It does depend what stage it's been. Like if it's a really hot stage, it's always good to get some fluids in as quick as possible, because you always lose a little bit of fluid throughout the race, no matter how much you drink. If it's been a hard race, a hill-top finish, it's really important to do a bit of a spin down afterwards. Everyone's different, of course, but certainly for me, I think those are probably the key things, because the recovery definitely starts as soon as I think the recovery starts before you cross the finish line. If you're coming into the last 5K of a race and a tour and you've got the opportunity to take a gel, it might not help you at that moment, but it's going to help you for the next day. So even the food you eat throughout stages is going to help you for the following stages. So you've almost got to constantly think about, looking after yourself for the following stages rather than just what's in front of you.
Yeah, good. So you're not so low. You're not completely ruined by the time you get to the end. So that's part of that sort of looking after yourself situation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think dehydration is probably the key thing. Like if you finish the stage totally dehydrated, then it doesn't matter what you do in your recovery, you're not gonna bounce back good the next day. And the way to avoid that is to drink well throughout the race. So yeah, it's just highlights that point that what you do throughout the race or the stage is important for the following days too.
Nice. Let's talk a little bit more about power numbers. You've mentioned those on some of the training rides, but with the advent of Zwift and things, that a lot of people actually understand power numbers more than what they ever have before. So how to use power in a 7-day tour of Southland stage race? How do you look at that? Do you manage that, or do you just play it as the race unfolds? How do you go there?
To be honest, it's just something that I use as a bit of a guide. I think I've had power on my bikes pretty much all the time since I started, to be honest. So yeah, 10 plus years, almost 15 years now. So I can pretty much ride and guess what power I'd be doing pretty accurately. The only thing that sort of can play with me a wee bit is if the power meter's reading wrong by say 10-20% or something like that. Because then I can start to think that is it giving me the right number, or am I just not having a good day, or what? But I think the good thing with the power meter is definitely keeping control of your efforts is probably the big thing. So if you're doing, say, a 20-minute climb, it's really good to look at that power meter in that first 5 minutes and just make sure you don't push yourself too far into the red. But at the end of the day, you know, a race is a race, and you just got to go as hard as you can. So yeah, I think power meters do have their benefits, but I think some people probably overemphasize it.
Especially, pacing yourself early, isn't it? That's the key thing when you're keen and enthusiastic, and I guess especially at the start of the tour as well, not to burn too many matches early on.
Yeah, that's definitely the key. I mean, I think, like I keep saying, that I've done it so many times now that I sort of know that instinctively anyway, not to go too hard too early. So certainly for people that are new to the sport, it's a really good tool to use for that pacing side of things.
Did that happen like that? I guess if your numbers are way wrong, you just completely ignore them. But did that happen in the tour for you this time around, or has that happened in the past?
Yeah, a couple of times on the tour, actually. I had a bit of bad luck there, I suppose. The remarkable stage up the climb, I had different chain rings on, slightly smaller ones, partly because we raced the Bluff Hill climb the next day, and I was kind of only like to change the chain rings once, and so I get the benefit of the 2 days there. So I had smaller chain rings on there, and it was giving me some low numbers going up the climb, sort of not massively low, probably that 20% or so, 10%, which sort of made me ask questions of myself. But yeah, at the end of the day, like I knew I was sort of dropping people one by one, and that I was in the hunt for the yellow jersey, to keep the yellow jersey. So that was the main thing. But yeah, it's always good to sort of, when you find that out after the stages that your power meter was wrong, you're not just having a bad day. So, yeah.
So here you are climbing the hill going, actually, I'm really rubbish. My legs are useless today, but you're still pinging people off the back. So actually, I must be doing okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it was probably under-reading by probably 100 watts or so at the climb. So I probably should have realised that it was obviously not right. But, you know, you always sort of ask yourself those questions. And also when your heart rate's super high and you just trying to get the finishes as quick as possible, often the sort of the reasoning goes out the window, and you often don't make the most sensible decisions, or you can't see things as clearly. So you sort of instantly think that, I'm just having a bad day. And if these are the legs I got for the rest of the tour, then I'm in a bit of trouble. But yeah, luckily it was okay. And at the end of the day, like I say, you know, if you have a good result, that's the main thing rather than the numbers you're doing.
Nice work, Michael. We've got a couple more questions to finish off with, but just before we do, this is more for those people that are watching us right now. Do you want to just dive across and flick the light switch on, because the sun's gone down in your place?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, there we go. And that's a bit of there we are. It's a bit of a test to see how you're moving. You are moving pretty well, actually.
Yeah. No. Recovery's going right. So.
Oh, that's good.
Good.
So,
Cool.
what does it take? What do you think it takes to ride the tour? Who could do it? I mean, could I do it?
I think so. I mean, I think the experience of the game, so positioning and being in the right spot and knowing what's coming up, because often I think times when people struggle is because they don't know what they're sort of getting in for with regard to sort of crosswinds and climbs and hard moments of the race. And I think if you can anticipate those things, or at least start at the front so you get a bit of a head start, then the race becomes a lot easier. And again, that's another reason to keep the team together, because the more together everyone is and the more at the front they are, then the quicker you can react to things when they do happen. So, and that's another reason why I think it's not such a bad thing to take the yellow jersey quite early in the race, because it means you can stay on the front and you have the best view of the race and what's going on from the front. So, yeah.
And less likely to crash, etc. as well. Is there a certain sort of level that people need to be, like a FTP of this sort of thing for those watching, or is it, hey, I should be riding A grade in the local club races? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of sort of few masters riders that generally finish, kind of okay. So, I mean, I would think that you'd need an FTP of at least probably 330 watts, I would say.
Yep.
For the tour. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to know, because I've got sort of quite above that, and it depends obviously on your weight and what you want to get out of the tour as well. But yeah, I mean, it's not the sort of race you really want to do just as a bucket list thing, I don't think. Like, you want to go there and you want to do it justice, and you want to go and get involved. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's sort of got their own agendas and things, but for me, I think it's, it's the pinnacle of our sport in New Zealand, and we want these riders to be there, and we want to see riders who are really taking it on and doing it justice, rather than riders that are just sort of trying to, make up the numbers as such. And it's like a national championships, like you go there to be a part of the race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Perfect. So maybe not. That might be the answer, Jess, for you and I.
I think that's a solid no.
Brilliant. Where to next? Yeah, exactly. I had to ask. Where to next, Michael? What's your next move?
So I've just signed a new contract with the team. I don't think I can say anything, so I better not, just so I don't get in trouble. But that'll be out in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be back in Europe next year, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, as I was saying earlier on, it'll be good to be back in Europe with sort of being a bit older and wiser and seeing what I can do, but also sort of passing on my knowledge and experience to the younger guys in the team, because we do have quite an exciting team of guys, and there's some younger guys with some older guys, and then we've got climbers, we've got sprinters, we've got everything in there. So it's quite a good mix and a good dynamic. So it'll be really good to sort of share my knowledge around and try and lift everyone on the team.
And I heard a rumor also that you're heading back to your roots, ride the mountain bike for the Waka 100 in January.
Hopefully. I don't have a bike at the moment. So if someone can get me a bike for the season, then I'll be more than happy to do it. So we're trying to work it out now. But it's hard at the moment because no one has any stock or anything, and I'm a bit much of a tight ass to be able to go and buy my own bike. So
yeah, I'm sure we can organise something there for you. Might be that giant mountain bike giant Anthem that I haven't ridden enough recently. We'll hook that up. I'm sure it looks fast. I'm sure it can go fast, especially with some decent legs on it.
Yeah, I can test it for you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Hey, I really, really appreciate your time, Michael. Super cool to get a bit of an insight on your experience, your background, what it's like to ride the tour, and also where you're off to next. So all the best. Really looking forward to following your journey and hopefully cheering on in next year's Tour of Southland as well.
Yeah, no, thanks you guys too. It's always good to sort of share sort of what I've done and where I've been and what I'm up to and that sort of thing. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity to come on and sort of sort of share my experiences and maybe debunk a few myths and things that seem to get around with high level racing. So always happy to have a chat, and thanks you guys for giving me the time.
Nice. Hey, just before you go, we've got a quick five that I just about slipped away from. Quick 5 questions, throw at you. Not allowed to think too hard about them, but what's your favourite go-to breakfast?
Go-to breakfast? Porridge.
Nice.
Yeah. What's your favourite event?
Tour of Southland.
Nice.
Favourite ice cream flavour?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I actually don't know, to be honest.
Obviously, a connoisseur of ice cream.
Yeah, we're sponsored by Deep South through Kelly's this year, so we had quite a selection of premium ice creams available. So we had all sorts of flavours I've never even heard of. So
right,
let's go cookies and cream.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, let's just go cookies and cream.
Cool. Fancy meal out or home cooked meal?
Home cooked.
Great.
Nice. And what's your favourite ride? Final question.
Anything with good company, to be honest. Like even if it's raining, if it's hills ride, if it's a flat ride, as long as I've got a few people around that I can talk to and have some laughs and share some stories, then I'm happy. So yeah.
Easy. Good job. Awesome. Okay, take care. Thanks for joining us, Michael, and we'll catch up with you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Awesome.
Okay, good. Thanks for jumping in there, Jess. You did super well. As I went through my tunnel, thought it was Michael, but it was clearly me.
That's all right. I thought you were just doing some miming impressions, but we got there.
No, that's awesome. What was your key takeaway from that, Jess?
Recovery. Absolutely. The kind of one of the final questions you asked on recovery, and his point on, doing the work. You're going to recover faster if you've done the hard work, and your body's ready, and it's going to make that recovery a whole lot easier.
Yeah, that's right. It was pretty simple about sort of his approach and how he did things, and obviously his recovery as well. But it was more about actually, training well and putting the hard yards in, which is pretty awesome. So clearly he's pretty motivated. Yeah, and some big goals. And really wish him all the best. It's going to be exciting to see how he goes when he gets back to Europe.
Absolutely, and I feel more motivated now already to get out on my bike. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
How good. Right. So Juliann Simeonidis is sitting in the background there, and keen to have a chat, Jules, about the 5 Passes Tour. I might need to get you to get up and walk to the light switch and back again to see how well you walk. Michael was pretty good.
What about if I go on my wheelie chair like this?
Yeah, okay.
Hey, the legs are
Fine.
working.
The lazy option. My legs are sore.
No, good. I'll let you know with that. Looks like you've recovered very well. How was it?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah. I suggest before you do a tour of Southland, try 5 passes.
Okay. Yeah.
So one to
Excellent.
start off.
So tell us about the 5 Passes Tour. What's it about for those that haven't heard of it before?
Okay, so it's a 4-day stage race from Christchurch to the West Coast, to Greymouth, and back again. So that covers about just over 600 Ks of, 600 Ks and what would you say, 5,000?
Oh, yeah, I did some maths prior. It come out at 5,800 meters of climbing. So I'll give you 6,000
Okay.
extra, Jules.
Okay. Yeah, so it's something that I've always seen on, through Facebook, and certainly you've had Team CP and coaches that have done it, and I thought, oh, that always looks good. And later years, probably friends that have tackled it, and I've thought, oh, yeah, next year I'm going to do it. So this was the year, and certainly no regrets. And yeah, what a tour it was. It was fantastic.
Nice. How are you supported? Because it's what, they have 120 riders or so is the maximum. So it's not
100 maximum. So it's a perfect number. So we were so fortunate to get away with the event under level 2. Cherie Stephen does a fantastic organisation, and her crew of 20 are just mind-blowingly fantastic. Everything is catered for. That's your meals, your accommodation, your washing, your bags. You don't have to lift a finger for everything. They're just, I can't speak highly enough of them. And I think that's what makes the tour so special, is that you're so well looked after. And especially on the days of, coming to Arthur's Pass when it's soaking wet, and she's got hot tubs there with fish and chips and white baked fritters and, just amazing.
Yeah. So good. That really makes it, those little touches.
Yeah, the other thing that's really important to mention is obviously Ted, who's the traffic management dude. Don't like to make him grumpy, and we all behaved ourselves, I think, on mostly over the 4 days. But yeah, with knowing that the traffic management is taken care of as well is a huge reassuring factor as well, especially when you're going over the viaduct and, you've got big trucks and, so, you've got cars following behind and front. So, everything is just taken care of.
It's broken into bits, isn't it? So there's an A grade, a B grade, a C grade, etc. So you obviously have cars in different bits following you. So, I mean, it's open road, isn't it? And as you say, the big trucks, etc. So good to be able to ride those iconic climbs effectively in a safe environment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was your background, Jules? What have you done before? What training did you do? We talked about recovery and Michael, like riding lots. What was your background, and how did you prepare for this?
I started looking at it probably back in June. If I sort of did it all myself, I probably would have overtrained, but under the guidance of Elise Fraser, who's a fantastic coach. And it's nice to have someone that you can just put your complete faith and trust in. So whatever was in my training peaks, I did it.
Good on you. Okay.
Yeah, it started off about June, and I guess I had a bit of endurance coming into that winter months. And it was just sort of building on that, I guess, and heading out in group rides, like Michael said, but also doing your work, like, you're doing your tempo stuff, sweet spot, and then you sort of, as you get closer, a few thresholds and efforts. But yeah, having those sort of weekend longer rides that are a little bit more endurance up over the hills, and then as we sort of got closer, maybe a month out, you'd do 2 or 3 endurance rides, and then maybe throw in a few more efforts, like another hour worth, just for that intensity, to simulate what can happen in a race environment, and stuff like that.
Yeah, no. And ultimately in training, that's what we're trying to do, is actually simulate what you're going to do on race day. So going through that and putting your body and mind through your paces.
for sure. And I think, for someone like myself, sort of that middle age, that later 40s, and being female, I think too, getting into the gym as well as like cycling is obviously non-weight bearing. So looking after your bone density and getting into the gym and lifting weights is also really important. And obviously your diet and looking at that. And that's probably an area that I really need to improve on still. And certainly in day 2, which was our big day of 217, looking back, I don't think I fueled enough. And I think I sort of paid and suffered for that a little bit. But you learn from these sorts of things. And just listening to Michael, what he says, it makes such a difference, obviously, what you've eaten going into something like this and during. And I think it's during that I struggle to probably take more food on board. But things to improve on.
Good to have things to improve on, to go and do it better and see how good you can go. What was the goal going into it? What was the plan of attack going into this event?
I think for me, I think you've got to play to your strengths. And I was in a fantastic group of women, Skoda Canterbury, organised by Julia Spark. She's a fantastic rider. Great bunch of girls, a lot of them triathletes, so super fit. And so I was honoured to be asked by her. And we sort of, I guess personally, I sort of thought, I'd like to give the sprint jersey a real crack. I think that's probably where my strength lies. And that's what I went for. That's what I wanted. And that's what I got.
Fantastic. What was the competition like?
And then he says, that's really good, Jules, that you got your your goal ticked off. But look at your GC standings, they're a bit down the order there.
Yep. And what was your comeback to that? Actually, I'm just actually.
Well, I got a puncher on the first day, which took half an hour for me to sort out. Did try to fix it myself, but fortunately that's the other thing, we've got great rider support. So we had Richard Lawson, Paul Odlin, Jason Wilson. So lots of, and the mechanic as well. So they come through, any riders that are broken down, they help out. Unfortunately, I just managed to get through the first day sprint, and then 18 Ks from the finish, I punctured. And so on the sideline, took me a while to get crack again. So that's my excuse. Half an hour down on day 1, you're never going to make that up.
Right. Okay. So it's not that you didn't and you couldn't. It's just actually, well, there's no point. Actually, I could have rode those hills and I probably could have won it, but I chose not to.
Nice story. No, I think, for me, it was just going for that green jersey. And I probably, if I'm honest with myself, didn't go so hard. There's a few stages there that I thought, let's give them a crack, and finished reasonably well. But for me, it's just all about the community of riders that you're with, meeting new people, the socialising, the taking in the scenery. It's just beautiful, part of New Zealand to cycle around, particularly around Lewis Pass, which is probably my favourite, coming from that into that downhill phase of 30 k's. Yeah,
so good. What was the weather like, Jules? On the West Coast, it can be anything this time of year. Tell us about that. How'd you cope? Was it beautifully sunny the whole time?
So the first 2 days were cracking hot, actually. From here to Hamner. Then the wind picked up, and day 2, which is our longest stage. There was another story about that, but I'm sure. Day 2 was pretty good. That was sunny, came into Greymouth, perfect. And then we heard day 3, which was coming into the Otera climb, that the rain was going to hit, and it did. But be the West Coast without a bit of precipitation, would it? So Cherie had organised us to start the day on day 3 a little bit earlier, which was a great move. That meant we could just get over the climb, get to Arthur's, jump in the pools, and that was the day done. So it was just everything worked out really well. So days 3 and 4 were a little bit more wet.
Nice. And did you ride your own bike the whole time, or did you choose to mix it up with somebody else's bike? How did that go?
I like to mix things up a little, Yes, there is a good story behind that. I thought after day 2, I thought, well, let's charge the DI2, all those kind of hills. And thinking I was charging that, I was actually charging my power meter. And so get to the start of the stage, day 3, and I'm like, why aren't my gears working? It's just like, oh no, what have I done? And so, bike didn't work. And then fortunately, good old Jason Wilson, who was in the support vehicles, he's like, Jules, you can borrow my Trek, same sort of gearing. It was mechanical, rim brakes, but on a wet day. And it's like, oh no. So we adjusted the seat and off we went.
Yeah, good. That's your option. Either that or you're running. So it's slightly better than that.
Yeah. And I do have to say too, big ups to Marcus, the timing dude, because I didn't have my timing chip. I was obviously on my original bike.
Okay, yep.
And so everything was sort of done manually, and so I had to take my word for it in the sprints. And I'm sure a few people radioed in to back that up. I hope. So I still owe GC. Yeah.
Nice work. No, that's good. And just making it work at the end of the day. DI2 is the electronic gears for those that don't know as well. So the gears weren't changing. You only had one gear on. So it's quite important.
Yeah. So it's not helpful when you go into a sprint and your littlest gear, is it? You've frozen on me, Richard.
I'll come back in because he does seem to be frozen. Although in a happy smile.
Good night, is he?
So what was the viaduct climb like?
Well, it's funny because I actually had a bit of a head game after not having my own bike. I was thinking, oh man, different bike. How am I going to get up there? Should I do it? Should I not? Raining, making all the excuses, Jess.
Yeah.
And talking to Jason, he's like, come on, you can do it. And, a few other people, it's like, yeah, you can do it. I'm like, yeah, I haven't come all this way not to do it. So I actually really enjoyed it. I just, hopped on my bike and pedaled, and it was great. Took in the views, and really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And satisfied to sort of get to the top, and
How did you feel kind of mentally throughout the different stages?
Good. Day 2 was a bit of a struggle for me, Jess. I think, as I say to Richard, I probably didn't fuel properly, and we had a sprint stage about 50 Ks into day 2, which I wanted to really target. And then we were sort of climbed up to the Lewis Pass, so it was a bit lumpy. And whether I didn't fuel properly after that, it was, So that sort of became, there was probably about 30 Ks, 40 Ks where I did by myself, sort of lost the bunch. And unfortunately, it was downhill, so that was no big issue, but that's when I should have been taking more food on.
Yeah.
But again, just some quality riders out there, like A grade, coming into Greymouth, saw me struggling and just sort of, helped me, rode with me, into Greymouth. And, that was the great thing about this tour, is that riders of all grades just mixing with each other and helping each other out. And, fantastic. So,
that's great. Do you think you'll do it again?
Oh, definitely, without doubt. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah. And I'd recommend it to anyone.
And what's the goal for next time, Jules? Is it GC next time?
Certainly, I'd love to improve my GC standings for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I think, be a bit better on the climbs and be more competitive overall rather than just target one thing. Happy that I got my goal, and happy that I, got through the thing. No worries. But yeah.
Nice, awesome, good.
Right.
We'll see you back on the start line next year.
Yeah.
Maybe. Watch this space.
Fantastic. Awesome, Jules. Hey, thank you very much for joining us. Love your insights, and well done on a fantastic last 4 days. And I'll let you go to bed and have a bit of a lie down now. I think you've definitely earned it.
That's great. Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining.
Take care.
Talk to you later.
Cheers, Jules. See ya. Bye.
Welcome back.
Good job. Welcome back for the second time today. Yep. Good stuff.
That was really
we've got
great.
Cushla. Yeah, absolutely.
do.
Is that sorry, Jess, I'm talking over top of you. Is that more your style, maybe, than the Tour of Southland?
I think so. I think either way, I've got some serious training to do. So yeah, just inspirational round.
Yeah. So is that hot pools and fish and chips more your style?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah, nice work. And speaking of hot pools and fish and chips, should we bring Cushla into the show?
Hello.
Hello.
How are you getting on, Cushla?
I'm very well, thank you. I've enjoyed the discussions tonight.
Yeah, good stuff. How are you getting on? What's been happening in your world in the nutrition space recently?
Not too much to report, to be honest. I feel a bit boring saying that, but there hasn't really been too much. I'm just hoping a few events are going to go ahead soon for all of us. Valley Ultras this weekend, so that's exciting.
Yep.
But yeah, it's kind of just same old at this stage.
That's right. And we're getting to the end of the year without sort of too many like landmarks of different events to turn up to, Christmas parties even. All of a sudden Christmas is going to be upon us, isn't it?
Yeah. It just, I don't know, from October onwards, the year just goes so fast, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does indeed. So you've been busy helping lots of different people with their nutrition and supporting them to be their best. Do you have any tips around cycling? Because it's all been about road cycling tonight, which is pretty cool. What you can stuff in your back pocket and maybe how we should manage our nutrition to make sure, as Michael said, that we can recover well and then go well tomorrow as well.
Yeah, keeping in mind, like we've had plenty of discussions, I guess, around, the general fueling for endurance type events. So, your during training and practicing and the breakfast before a race and, showing well hydrated, all of that. Put aside, I was thinking like more practically specific cycling related. There are definitely a few things to consider, and I sort of broke it down into like, I guess, hydration and bottle fuel versus solid food fuel. So yeah, with like your bike, I guess, hydration seems relatively simple because, you just drink from your bottle, easy as. But actually when you go out and you practice that, it's a little bit more niggly, and that's even with the most basic frame bottle. You throw that into bunch riding and it's trickier again.
Yes, that's right.
And then there's different bottle setups too, because if you're, got Aero bars, you can have your bottle in the middle with the straw that you can refill. You can have the bottle holders at the rear of your saddle. You could even, you obviously have the ones on the frame, and you could even like have a bladder on your back, depending on what type of event you're doing and how confident you feel.
Yes.
Quite a few different options to fuel yourself on a bike, and they all certainly need a lot of practice. That's
right, and they all, as you say, it depends on which event that you're doing as well, and what you're looking to try and achieve in that too, doesn't it? But like the Camelback on your back is a great option. It just means that it's hands free. You basically shove the tube in your mouth, and then you can spit it out when you want. So you actually drink properly, opposed to trying to do drink bottles in a bunch, and you haven't done much bunch riding or practice with drink bottles. Then that becomes wobbly, and you just probably won't drink anything.
Definitely. And where it could be really appropriate is, I know a lot of people like, say, in the Mission Mount Summers multi event or coast to coast, where it's like a ride to a run type event, they actually just have like Camelbacks on them because they'll carry that through the whole event. And then they might have a little top up bottle on their bike as well. And that might just be if you're not as confident, to use a bottle, or it's quite technical on a mountain bike, or so there's, something for everyone. I guess the good thing with cycling, generally speaking, is you can tolerate a wider variety of foods, just because you're not like, running is very jiggly, like all your organs are moving around a lot. And the tolerance to food can be a little bit trickier in that circumstance. But cycling, you're, in a fixed position, and it can be a little bit easier to eat more variety of, all sorts of foods. So that's probably a bit of a benefit compared to running.
And I guess also on that Cushla is intensity as well. Intensity is not always high. Like running is always like, just to be able to run, you have to be at a certainly sort of high intensity most of the time. Whereas you can have periods of downhill or cruising in the back of the bunch. Yeah,
that's very true. Yeah, even running downhill, it's still, it's probably more technical, possibly. But cycling downhill, if it's not too steep or in a bunch, then it's a chance to sort of refuel a bit more and relax a little bit, maybe. And then I guess in terms of the food options, like with a bike, it can be really handy to have, I think they're called bento boxes. There might be another word for them, but other little bags that can sit on your frame. And that allows you to have food right there, easy to grab, one-handed, and thinking about feasible things that you can just grab with one hand so you don't have to take your hands off the handlebars. And that could be, little sandwiches cut up into squares with maybe peanut butter or jam or honey. You could even strap gels to your frame and then you rip them off. And as you rip them off, it opens the gel as well. That's quite a good tip. I actually learned that from Kim.
Good.
And then you obviously have your pockets and your cycle gear as well, which depends what sort of gear you have. You might have lots of pockets or not many. And you can even stick things to your handlebars as well. So like the little cliff blocks you can lick and stick. A little bit gross maybe, but they do stick for a while, so they can be helpful. So
how you carry things, and I guess it's that pre-unwrapped works really well as well, so you don't have to sort of struggle to do that, and it's already in a bite-sized bit as well. Makes a big difference too, doesn't it? So you can actually just throw it in, and if it's easy, you're more likely to as well.
Exactly. And having all the little pieces of muesli bar broken up, or like an M's power bar, whatever, just to make it as simple as possible, and you just can so easily fuel yourself.
Nice work. Any other sort of key cycling tips to finish up, Cushla?
Just one thing that would be good to consider, thinking about your position, particularly if you're getting more down into the aero position, is reflux. And that's where you may have a transition. Like I'm thinking exactly like something where you're going from a kayak, so you're in a seated position, and then you're suddenly getting down into the aero position. And if you've had something in the kayak that may have been more like meal-based, like maybe quite a rich smoothie or like meal replacement, then do practice that in your training of getting onto a bike with that in your stomach and getting into that aero position, because with those richer, fuller type formulas, it can lead to quite a bit of reflux in that aero seat. So that's an important consideration.
Just I guess that's like anything, practice what you're going to use, and therefore how's it going to sit with me. And also I think one of your other tips the other week was actually train at the intensity and then also have your nutrition as well. So it could be in an event like a club race on the weekend, but actually I'm trying to use the nutrition that I'm going to have on my longer ride. So can I chew it? Can I actually get it down? How dry is it, etc.? Is it palatable?
Yes, definitely. Train as you would race. And with gear too, like with cycling shorts, do train in them, make sure they're comfortable, because that cycling gear can be tight, and if that's putting pressure on your abdomen around your stomach, like that can make it quite uncomfortable too. So obviously just make sure your gear's all comfortable and sorted.
Fit shorts, etc. No, 100%. No, that's good. Awesome, Cushla. And are you training for anything? Have you been on the bike much recently? You did a bit of biking last year?
Last year, back in February, I think. I've done some mountain biking, but to be fair, I haven't been on my road bike for probably 2 to 3 months, and then before that, it was probably February.
That's right. And have you still got all that skin from your mountain biking adventure?
Mostly. I was pretty surprised actually. Good.
Sending it. I like it. Well done. Awesome, Cushla. Okay, well, you look after yourself. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your time once again. And if anybody wants to touch base with Cushla, just get a bit more support around there, both nutrition for sport and running and biking and all those sorts of things, or actually just getting that baseline nutrition sorted, or if there are other things going on. Obviously, you're a registered dietitian too, so there's lots of things. You can order blood tests. You can do lots of different stuff to help people get their health and wellness sorted as well, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. So just sing out through our website, etc., and we'll put you in touch with Cushla, and we'll get you humming.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Good job. Well done. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks, Cushla. See ya. Nice work.
Oh,
well done, Jess. We did it.
Yes, that was a great show. I've honestly learnt so much hearing from everyone tonight. It's it's been fantastic.
Nice. Sprinting to the finish line now. So I asked you your key takeaway after we talked to Michael. Any other sort of key highlights for you?
Yeah, with Jules, like the benefit of strength training, she said she incorporates that into her training program, and it just kind of reiterates that for me, the long-term benefits of incorporating good strength training into your general training program, no matter what sport that you're training for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you say, like it's actually you're not having the impact when you're riding your bike, so actually you still need to to use all of those muscles and challenge them. So then your bone health and things is good. So from a performance perspective, but also from a health perspective too, is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice work. Good job. So give us some feedback. Let us know sort of if you've got any questions, etc. And we've got that True Fleece Merino prize pack to give away as a result of this evening's show as well. So thanks so much for Michael Vink, Juliann Simeonidis, and Cushla Holdaway for their fantastic insights and sharing their stories. And thanks for you, Jess, for holding the show together, gluing us to make sure we keep rolling forward and made it work.
And thank you, Richard. That was great.
Yeah, well done. Okay, thanks, team. Over and out. Till next week.
See ya.